Thank you for joining us today. I'm delighted to welcome you to our masterclass on battling basket abandonment. The retail sector has undergone successive waves of disruption over the last couple of years. So, whether it's been the pandemic or supply chain issues, or more recently, the cost of living crisis, consumers have really adapted their behavior and retailers have had to adapt their proposition in order to meet these challenges and often exceed them. But consumers have had to change the way they've changed the way they engage with brands. They've had a disruption across the customer journey, and increasingly, the thing that ties everything together, in my view, is customer expectations. They unconsciously bounce between digital and physical channels, but they've become increasingly intolerant of retailers who can't meet these exacting expectations. So over the next 45 minutes or so, we will cover some of the latest research that we've just launched with GFS, which I'm really excited to talk through. And we've got an action-packed 45 minutes where we cover the research. We're going to a consumer panel discussion as well, where I'm delighted to be joined by some really astounding speakers within the industry. So just to give a brief introduction now, we've got Zoe Donovan, the Digital Marketing Director from LK Bennett. Zoe is responsible for delivering digital transformation across the business and driving the repositioning of the LK Bennett brand. Zoe's got more than 15 years experience working for the likes of Tesco and Topshop, Arcadia, leading multidiscipline teams focused on commercial performance and innovation within the retail or within the fashion sector. But over the last 3 years at LK Bennett, Zoe's seen significant investment in the customer experience for the brand, and also recently launched a subscription service called LK Borrowed. So really interesting to ask more details around that. We're also joined by Hannah Lear as well. So Hannah is the operations director for hampers.com. It's one of the largest privately owned hamper retailers in the world that's offering luxury and drinks hampers and gifting for over the last 40 years. The customer and the customer journey is at the heart of what they offer. So ensuring gifts are delivered on time without damage is of the highest importance. Congratulations as well to hampers.com that achieved carbon neutral status in 2022, and they're well on their way on the journey to becoming B Corp registered as well. So really looking forward to getting into some of the more details around the challenges and getting some direct insights from their businesses as well, looking at some of the challenges and opportunities that they're facing. I'm just going to run through a couple of the highlights that we've seen in our research about basket abandonment with GFS. And just for a bit of context, we know that basket abandonment has been a big issue for retailers since the emergence of online. So throughout the customer journey, whether this is in-store or online, friction has been the primary factor that's inhibited sales growth for many of these businesses. It means different things for different people, depending on the types of products purchased, the price points, whether or not they want next day delivery, time delivery, weekend delivery. But what we've seen is that deliveries become a really, really critical factor to try to reduce basket abandonment and especially across delivery options. It's interesting to see that Barclays did a piece of research back in 2018, which valued basket abandonment at £18 billion. So it was costing £18 billion to the retail industry, and 4 out of 10 online journeys actually ended in basket abandonment. So part of the research of what we've conducted is try to update that and see if retailers have managed to improve their processes over the last few years. Within our research, what we did is we sampled over 2,000 nationally representative households. We interviewed over 100 senior retailers to get their perspectives on basket abandonment, the challenges and the frictions that they see for their customers. And one thing that we found absolutely clear within the research is that delivery and returns expectations matter across the entire customer journey. So whether it's the pre-purchase stage when consumers are researching and browsing products, at purchase stage when they're deciding what delivery options are most appropriate for them, depending on what they're purchasing, or whether it's about returns and the courier services around returns post-purchase, consumers really take attention and notice of delivery and returns options across all of those stages, and it's become a critical part of whether or not they decide to shop with a particular retailer. The other thing that the research showed is that we wanted to address some of the myths that are associated with delivery. So whether it's free delivery, whether consumers are willing to pay for premium options, or whether consumers are willing to pay for free returns, we've found some really insightful discovery within the research. The first thing that we found was there was about 60% of under 45s that prioritize delivery choice and convenience over lower costs. The second point was around willingness to pay for premium options. And actually, what we found is that 3 in 4 consumers are willing to pay extra for same day or next day or nominated delivery. And the third thing was around whether or not consumers are willing to pay for returns. And what our research found was that 1 in 2 UK shoppers are willing to pay for returns if it offers that hassle-free option. And that rises to 76% for under 45. So there was a considerable polarization by age. The other thing that we also found is that consumers really do value choice when it comes to delivery. And when we looked at our research, what we found is a big disconnect between consumers and what they wanted in terms of choice of delivery options versus what retailers were offering. So overall, in our research, we found that retailers were offering about 3.5 delivery options on average. And for online retailers, that was even fewer. So it actually decreased to 2.8. Our research showed that consumers actually want about 5 delivery options when they're looking to purchase non-food products. So overall, when we consider the frustrations that are caused by various delivery options not meeting consumers' expectations, what we found is that limited choice of delivery options was the largest cause of basket abandonment for consumers. It actually cost the industry about £7.2 billion a year. There are also a range of other challenges that consumers raised in terms of their delivery expectations not meeting delivery cost not meeting their expectations, delivery speed not meeting their expectations, or concerns about returns policy. But you can see there that limited choice is the primary concern, costing the most amount for retailers. When you add up all of these different options, what we saw is that there's an incredible £31.5 billion that was left at checkout for non-food for consumers because of the lack of options around delivery or cost or speed across the board. Interestingly, going back to the beginning of the presentation, talking about Barclays, where it cost the industry about £18 billion, we can see there that there's still a lot of work for the industry to do. So when we come down to looking at the research and what it means for consumers, what we've identified is 5 key rules or key parts of the strategy that retailers should consider as part of their set of solutions for reducing basket abandonment. The first is around customer centricity and the rule of 5, but essentially retailers need to consider whether or not they have the delivery options available, and actually we feel that consumers are really demanding around 5 options. The second one was around multi-carrier partnerships and empowering choice. The third was around reliability and reliability being non-negotiable. Essentially, consumers want reliable delivery options, and it has become non-negotiable for them. Technology, of course, is a really important enabler for retailers. So looking at technical solutions, often around single multi-carrier platforms, to try to increase their efficiency and productivity across that journey. but also around treating outbound and inbound equally. So applying the same principles around choice and reliability to returns as well. So hope that was of real interest to you. There's some really great insights and findings within the research that we conducted. One of the key parts of that research is that we found that there's about 1 in 4 purchases that were abandoned due to inadequate delivery options at the point of checkout. If I can turn to Zoe first, I just wanted to ask how important you believe that kind of wide range of delivery services, how important it is for your business to cover all of those bases, and also as you've kind of been with the business for a number of years now, how have you seen the impact of a wider delivery choices affect your customers?
Yeah, I think it is really important. I think offering consumers choice in every aspect of the journey is very important and an expectation now. When I joined LK Bennett sort of 3.5 years ago, they were only offering one standard delivery offering. And as a luxury brand, that was really out of touch with our competitors, but also other places that we are selling our products through wholesale and concession partnerships. So we have launched a wide increase in choice over the last few years. We offer next day delivery, nominated delivery, collect from parcel shop, and a concierge service. And we've definitely seen an increase in checkout success rates as a result of that. One interesting quirk of that is actually we find our customers are very particular about the carrier that they would like their parcel with. And we know on a local level, your experience with any given carrier can be quite different. So we've actually made the change not to just call it standard delivery, next day delivery, but actually say who the carrier will be. And we've had really positive feedback from customers on that because they want to fully understand what that delivery experience is to help them make the right choice for them.
Okay. And do you see, like you're saying, you kind of pointing towards the fact that there are regional differences, and do you see how those regional differences, presumably you see some preference towards some carriers in some regions and not in
Yeah.
others?
It's on a super
Yeah.
local level, to be honest. So, for myself, I have a very good person from DPD who comes regularly. But equally, I know other colleagues who are not that far away from me maybe have a different experience. And it's not necessarily region by region, it's almost street by street as to who your local carrier is and that individual person and the relationship you have with them sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hannah, do you kind of relate to some of those messages as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer that choice at checkout, and certainly taking some of the learnings from the research and those sort of things as well. We want to take that a step further as well and kind of replicate what LK Bennett are doing and kind of giving that customer the view of who the carrier is for both the standard and the premium delivery. So we're going through a journey now where we can enhance our checkout to give the customers more opportunities to see what they need and be able to choose and have that, clarity when they're going through our checkout process.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess part of this is around the myth that consumers aren't necessarily willing to pay for premium services, and yet some of the research that we've done, as you know, as I've spoken about, shows that actually consumers are willing to pay in certain instances, and a lot of that's around shop omission, or it might be about the price of the products, whether it's luxury or discount or something like that. But yeah, millennials, there seems to be, a kind of a desire to be able to, a willingness to pay for some of these premium services. We actually found that 95% of millennials are willing to pay for premium services. So, Hannah, from your experience, you offer those premium services, but yeah, do you provide them for free? Do you make consumers, do you encourage consumers to pay for them? Is there that kind of willingness to pay from your perspective?
Yeah, there is, absolutely. So we offer a standard next day delivery if you spend over £40, and we offer then a premium delivery service which allows people to choose named or next day delivery, depending on that service. And obviously, because of the uniqueness of gifts, that model works with us quite well, because we have two sort of customers that come to our site. You've got the ones that are really organised and know that their mum's birthday is the 10th of June, or they've got people that are, oh my gosh, I forgot to buy so and so a present and I need the next day service. So by offering that level of choice on our checkout, we're really able to provide both of those like necessities when you're buying gifts. And we also, we only actually introduced that charge about 3 months ago. And actually, obviously, when we did that, we saw a move on our overall shipping to more premium services as well. So when having to pay for that standard service under £40, more people then obviously choosing the premium service, which seems logical, but it was interesting to see that pattern.
Absolutely. I'll definitely fall into the second camp of that, being a bit more unorganised, but definitely willing to pay for speedy yes. delivery. And Zoe, do you find as well the same kind of thing where there is that willingness to pay for premium services?
Yeah, definitely. Our customer at LK Bennett, she is time poor, has a relatively high disposable income, and convenience is ultimate for her. So yeah, we see a big uptake in next day delivery and the other premium services, especially pre-key events. So we sponsor Royal Ascot. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a huge increase in next day orders as people suddenly realised they hadn't quite got the outfit they needed to go to an event like that. And we've also recently introduced our concierge service with Harper, where you can, in central London, well, in Greater London, actually, you can book a 1 hour appointment where you can get brought items to your door with style advice. You can try them all on then and there, and then they will deal with the return process for you and make it really seamless. So we've seen some very, very positive customer feedback on that so far, which just backs up that if the service is meeting them in their lifestyle, they are very willing to pay for it.
Yeah, I guess that's really taking delivery to the next level in terms of that service element and being able to charge for that service element if you're adding real value
Exactly.
in that area.
Yeah.
And I guess as well that that point of delivery for retailers and brands is that final point of contact for retailers, and so you're kind of offering a real experience there as well. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
really
You're trying to replicate some of what our store staff do so fantastically, of that real in the moment feedback experience, a human touch to the e-commerce journey. So yeah, it's been really well received so far.
Oh, fantastic. And also, in our experience, most retailers take that traditional approach of working directly with multiple carriers. So they can offer the choice and also try to mitigate some of the risks by, not putting all of their eggs in one basket. And Hannah, if I can just direct this to you first, but what made you break the norm in terms of switching from working with kind of multiple carrier partners to working with a single carrier partner? And what are the advantages have you seen in using that model?
Yeah, so for us, it was very much commercially based with regards to the overall organisation of the company. So by using multi-carrier partner, we were able to rely on their expertise and knowledge to support us as a small business. So we don't necessarily have to have that carrier knowledge, that experience and that relationship with the carriers. We're relying on someone else to do that. It's also more efficient with regards to invoicing. There's just one person to deal with. We've got a central place to go to, and they also make the effort to understand our business and then help match carriers to what our business needs are as well. I think for us as well, that strategic support, and especially because we're a very peaky business, which I'm sure coming to later, just having that ability to kind of deal with those sort of peaks and the things that happen at those peaks, really support us as well.
So you got that kind of like flexibility and agility as well, and being able to draw on that resource as well. Absolutely, when needed.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so Zoe, for you, is that kind of some of those messages
Yeah, well,
resonate?
because we're a high value, low volume business, we don't have a lot of negotiating power on volume either. So by working with GFS and a multi-carrier partnership, we benefit from their aggregated buying power and volumes to get much better carrier rates than we would if we went direct to the carriers. And the other big benefit is customer care only have, one point of contact. They're not having to contact, 5, 6 different carriers if they need to query something or if there's, something has gone wrong. So it really helps us with efficiencies there as well.
Okay, interesting. And so, Hannah, from your perspective, if you were to give some kind of tip of advice for other retailers looking to make the switch to a single multi-carrier partner, what kind of things should they be looking for?
I think it would be, for me, it'd be like the option of carriers that they work with. So that they've got that broad carrier mix. I think it's their relationship and understanding what their relationship and negotiating power is with those carriers. That's obviously really important, because obviously that will benefit us going forward. I think that it's making sure that you nail down the support contract and the SLAs that you have with that multi-carrier partner. And then also like the value add services that Zoe and I both mentioned. So in terms of customer care, like we have one point of contact for the customer care. We have a dedicated account manager, and then there's also the technology part as well that we'll go into, which is about the checkout journey and that whole integrated piece that we get. That's just makes everything so much more simpler and efficient is the key thing for me.
And Zoe, have you got anything to add to that as well?
No, I completely agree with what Hannah said. The fact that it's all like one integrated service from, the actual carrier and warehouse side right through to the front end for customer facing technology, it just makes things a lot simpler for a business of our size.
Yeah. Okay. And the third cog in terms of the strategy for us and some of the findings from the research just found that reliability was essentially kind of a non-negotiable for consumers, and it was interesting to see that was kind of irrespective of preferences and customer demographics and things like that. What's your view? What's your view on that? And Zoe, I'll come to you first, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, the likes of Amazon have created that expectation many years ago now, and it's just an absolute given. If you've paid money for something, you want to get it when you've asked for it without any issues, any friction, just super easy. I think if there are issues, what it can be done is trying to get ahead of them. So don't wait for customers to tell you that there's an issue and ask where something is, or like say something's gone wrong. How can you get ahead of that with proactive communication? Because the expectations are very high. And if there are issues, which sadly is a fact of life, how do you minimize the impact that has on how you are seen as a retailer?
Yeah, and so from your perspective, and inevitably things might, there might be hiccups every now and again. What kind of forms of communication do you use? Is it principally by email or text, or is there a customer service agent who'll pick up the phone?
Mostly email when it's automated, but if there was an extreme situation, then I think a phone call. It depends on the customer demographic, but for our customers, the sound of a human voice at the end of the phone if something has really gone wrong is very valued, but most of the automated things are email based for us.
Yeah, okay. And Hannah, from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously reliability is important in more consumers, but especially when it's gifting, because it's so emotive. Most people are trying to get the gift there on the day of the birthday. So if things then go late, then you've disappointed, and it's more than just you're buying something for yourself. It's you're caring and showing love in our purchases. So that is really that reliability for us is absolutely critical. And then the same when it comes to our peak at Christmas, we have 75% of our annual revenue done in 6 weeks. So you have to, because of that massive operational overload, you have to make sure that you're doing more and more to enhance that and make that reliability still there from all over. So it's just really critical that we do obviously all year round, but when we're operationally stretched, and as lots of companies are at peak, is making sure that reliability stays there and you're choosing the right carriers carriers that you can rely on when those numbers start to grow.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. And for some parts of the industry, that kind of golden quarter period is responsible for 80% of sales in some cases. So making sure you get it right is absolutely critical. But also, how do you work with your delivery partners to ensure that deliveries kind of aren't going to let you down? What kind of things what kind of insights can you enlighten us on there?
So for us, working with GFS as our carrier partner, we it's a year-round process. I would say that we start we start with reviewing what happened last peak, which we'll do in February time. Understanding what went well, what went wrong, what carriers performed well, what carriers didn't. Look at implementing changes in the middle of the year, and then when it comes to peak, then and when we're actually operating through it, we have daily calls with our account manager. We have to make sure that we've got contingency plans to cover things, and then there's always those things that that happen that you can't even contingency plan for. So when you've got a partner that understands the network and understands the carriers, you can react very quickly to those things. So for example, last peak with all the Royal Mail issues that we had, and just generally delivery times were being stretched and expectations of customers' expectations were being missed on lots of occasions on lots of companies. We were able to move around carriers and get extra volume very last minute, just having GFS there as our support and able to have that contact within the other carriers to really get that extended volume and that support in that last week when delays were happening and things are going on. We were able to maneuver very quickly and very rapidly to adjust to those sort of problems, which was excellent.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's really interesting. And of course, technology being a key enabler of all of that, which is kind of our fourth strategy. But if I can come to you now, but in terms of technology helping you to simplify some of those operational complexities and moving from that kind of multi-carrier delivery to ensure that kind of seamless customer journey for consumers. I mean, how important is that frictionless delivery experience and that breadth of choice? How important is that for your customers, and how does technology play a role in that?
Yeah, having a seamless experience is absolute non-negotiable nowadays, I think. And so we use GFS's technology platform to make sure that every element of that is joined up. So from the warehouse integration, and then upstream we have the GFS checkout integrated into our web checkout. We have the returns portal. And then the customer care team use the GFS Seeker platform as well. So that means that every step of our business is integrated to the same system with the same information and a high level of control. So it allows us to be able to switch delivery methods on and off, schedule changes, test changes to pricing, bring new carriers on board and offline if we need to, really at the touch of a button. So it gives us a lot of control and flexibility, which allows us to give the customers that choice, but also if there are any issues, react very quickly. And then post-purchase, we also offer the GFS returns portal, which again offers the delivery method choice for their return, which we make sure that there is a free option and a convenient option, but equally there are some other options in there that we charge for that are more, again, those premium services. So if you want your return to be collected from home, there's for a fee. Some people are willing to pay for that convenience. So all of those technology elements join up together and just help make that a really smooth experience for the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hannah, from your perspective?
Very, very similar to Zoe, really. We use those tools as well, the GFS checkout, Seeker, and then so they all just help us to become efficient in our processes effectively. And then also we use GFS Selector just in our warehouse, which kind of helps with the printing of the labels, making that more accurate, quicker, and effective, really, in our operational processes.
Okay, brilliant. And we've touched on kind of returns in part of the conversation already, but according to our research, consumers look at what retailer offers in terms of returns as well as deliveries at the point of purchase, but also just looking at having that convenient experience of frictionless for returns as well. So how do you give your consumers that convenient, friction-free returns experience that they expect these days? And I'll come to you first, Zoe, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think for most fashion retailers, returns are a complete headache, and for most CEOs and CFOs, they'd rather just ban returns, I think. But of course, we're not allowed to do that. As a more, a consumer focused person, I don't see it like that. I think it's part of the convenience and part of trying to create that physical shopping experience online. Our customers love being able to try things on at home, and if they've got a special event coming up, yes, they may try 3 dresses at home and only keep 1 or 2, and we want to make sure they keep as many as possible and they have a great experience. But returns are going to be part of our business, even if we reduce them slightly or minimize them. So again, for returns, we just try and offer as much choice as possible and make it as smooth as possible. We offer paper-free options, so not everybody has a printer at home. You could take your parcel to your local parcel shop or the post office with a QR code, and so that's really low friction. And then we also offer those collect from home services as well. And that allows us to monetize some of that. So we always offer a free option for our normal full price deliveries, but we do charge for some of those premium options. We have started charging for sale returns as well, where in many retailers in that physical setting, maybe you wouldn't get a refund for a sale item. You might get an exchange only or store credit. We want to still, of course, offer a refund option, but we do charge a small fee just to cover our costs of processing those sale items back to good. It's quite a hot topic at the moment in the fashion industry. You're seeing the likes of Next and Zara start to charge for all returns. They are both doing that, I think, with a mindset of driving footfall back into store. So it's still free in both those cases if you return to store, with the hope that they'll convert that to a new purchase. For a business our size, we don't have a huge store portfolio, so that isn't as easy for us to convert all of those into store. So at the moment, we've resisted charging for all returns. I certainly think as a luxury retailer, the expectation is that you're spending a lot with the retailer. These services should be baked into that cost. But it's going to be very interesting to see where that goes, because there's a lot of chats at the moment about how much returns are costing the fashion business.
Yeah. And just actually on that point of cost, is there anything specific you're doing in terms of how you're protecting your profitability in terms of returns, given that it can be such a enormous cost?
Yeah, I think just twofold, trying to minimize those avoidable returns. So whilst returns are always going to be part of what selling fashion online involves, what are the ones we could have avoided through the customer helping her find the right product, the right size the first time, through personalization in the front end of the website. That's where we're focused our energy on there. Also looking at those customers who have very, very high return rates and contacting them and seeing how we could help and maybe offer them a different service. And that's the upstream effort. And then downstream, as I say, making sure that we do monetize some of those more premium returns options.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. And you touched on Next there, and I find Next, of course, is a large business, and it's one of the leading lights in terms of what they're doing in terms of digital and how they're using stores. But I find it astonishing that they've got over 500 stores, more than 50% of their sales are online, yet 80% of their online returns go back into store. So they're kind of leveraging the value of their store estate and and using that to their advantage.
They've got the unique position to be able to do that. So it's smart retailing, I think, for those that can.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hannah, from your perspective, how much of a headache is returns for you, and what is your business doing about that?
So thankfully, we have our challenges with peak, but with returns, they really are negligible. With our business, we have less than 1% of our sales as returns. So so it's so low we can just manage that on a case by case basis with the individual.
I'm sure you're the envy of many other retailers. So
not sure what I'd rather, peak or returns.
Okay, so I'm just going to turn to, we've had a couple of questions that have come in as we've been going through. One of them is actually around sustainability, and again, sustainability is another huge topic within the industry, and consumers increasingly looking at sustainable delivery options. I mean, is that something that you think is going to become more important in your business, Hannah, or is it, is it critical at the moment?
I mean, it is, as someone who is carbon neutral, as a company that's carbon neutral, and a brand that's going for B Corp, I think that for us it's obviously vital that we look at all of these options and how we can be sustainable in all of our areas. The one area that's probably, in terms of the industry, that's weakest is probably sustainable delivery. There are moves being made by carriers, but it's small and it's localized into the southeast and London. So I think from my perspective, I think if you want to start looking at this as a brand, you need to take control of this and drive these sort of agenda items. And, for us, we offset all of our delivery, we carbon offset all of our delivery. And so, we try and that for us is how we can make our, ensure to our customers that we're being sustainable as possible with our delivery. And then our next challenge is how we look at reduction rather than just offsetting. So for me, I think again, it's like about how you are as the customer decision has to come with what the brand stands for, rather than necessarily a minute the sustainable delivery options that we have.
That's interesting. And Zoe, from your perspective, obviously you're targeted at a more affluent customer, and I mean, arguably maybe they are more willing to pay for sustainable delivery options. But how do you see that kind of motivation playing out?
Sustainability is super important for us as a business. We've just been accredited with the Positive Luxury Mark, which is similar to B Corp, but particularly focused on the luxury sector. But the carriage part of what we do is like the industry really doesn't feel like it's where it needs to be yet. So there is no nationwide eco carrier option at the moment, as Hannah said. So I fundamentally believe if it was available, our customers would be willing to pay for it, but it isn't yet. It's very localized. With the concierge service we offer, they use predominantly electric vehicles. So where we can, and it's very focused on London, we are able to offer those services. But the industry is not there yet. But I think it will move in the next 5 years. It needs to, let's face it. And making sure we're just being as efficient as possible as soon as those services are available.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've probably got time for one last question. And it's a question about where the responsibility for customer delivery experience sits within the business. So is this something that sits on the kind of logistics side of the business or the marketing side of the business? Hannah, have you got any observations here?
Yeah, that's absolutely. So I think in the past, in historichampers.com, this has very much been a logistics piece, but I think we've evolved that it's definitely both now. I think from my expectation, talking about what we've talked through today, having that customer choice and that customer journey, that that's effectively the marketing function. So but then there's operational and commercial aspects that that need that sort of ops piece to it. So for me, it's a together piece where we work in sync to kind of come up with what's best for the customer, as well as making sure that we're protecting operationally.
Okay. And Zoe, anything to add there?
Yeah, I agree. It has to come hand in hand. Marketing need to have an eye on this because it completely impacts acquisition and retention of customers if they don't have a good experience and if the services aren't available that they're seeking. But logistics are the ones executing the plan and making sure it all runs smoothly. But the two definitely have to work hand in hand and feel jointly accountable for that end-to-end service and making sure we listen to customer feedback and respond.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Thank you so much, Hannah, Zoe. It's just, I think we could probably carry on talking for another hour around some of these topics, but it's been absolutely fascinating to go through, the 5-point strategy plan, seeing where your businesses are kind of engaging across each of those different areas, and some super insightful commentary from both of you. I just draw your attention to the full report. There's lots more detail that we cover within the report, looking at kind of delivery options across the entire customer journey, looking at how there's differences across age and affluence group and different cohorts of consumers. You can download the report by scanning the QR code there, or going to GFS website, but there's lots more detail to really get your teeth into. But once again, thank you very much for your time, and again, thank you to Hannah and Zoe as well. Thanks.